the biggest mistake your team has made in recent seasons. So let's crack into it. Up first, we have Arsenal. Now, it was one of two things I had for Arsenal. Now, the first one is the selling of Emiliano Martinez. Now, Martinez is a World Cup winner. He's won the Golden Glove in the World Cup and also in the Copa America. He's been outstanding for Aston Villa and also probably the best penalty goalkeeper in the world. I have never seen a man to put a pressure on the penalty taker like Emiliano Martinez does. So I would say not recognising that they had a world-class goalkeeper on their hands when they were starting the likes of Leno and other players instead of having this gem. Now, what I will say in Mikel Arteta's defence, when they started playing Martinez, I remember a game against Liverpool. It was a 5-5 draw in the Carling Cup. And I must say that Martinez was at fault for 3 of those goals. Now, that was the first time I ever seen Martinez, and he looked rough. That game then went into a penalty shootout. Quiveen Kelleher saved 2 penalties, and Martinez saved no penalties. So, at the time, you must say it wasn't obvious to all of us. It might have been obvious when they won the FA Cup and he played well in the FA Cup, but not then. So selling him for 25 million maybe at the time seemed like a good bit of business, but right now it seems like a terrible bit of business. Look, it's not too bad. They have Ramsdale, but he was definitely better than Leno. The second thing I would say that Arsenal definitely messed up in is giving Aubameyang another contract a couple of seasons ago. I think they got the best out of Aubameyang. I thought he did very well up till they gave him the contract. He took his foot completely off the gas. It was probably Mikel Arteta's biggest mistake, and in fairness, he rectified it to the letter of the law. He neglected Aubameyang. He removed him from the squad, even though he was massive amount of wages. And look at Arsenal now. They're top of the table, flying high, and a big chance of winning the Premier League, even though they drew up to Brentford at the weekend. But still, a massive chance of winning the league because of Arteta's decision to let Aubameyang go. And look at him now. He's a flop at Chelsea, he was a flop at Barcelona, and he was a flop for the last year and a half at Arsenal. So I would say giving Aubameyang another contract, things got a bit hairy then. Also, honourable mentions to the Arsenal list, I will put down that Ozil. That whole Ozil thing for the last 3 years of Ozil was a disgrace. It was kind of, will we keep him, will we not keep him? And it was blatant to other fans that he just didn't have his heart in it, and that's what happens, Mesut Ozil. He just goes walkabout on the pitch, and you got nothing out of him in the last 3 years. But no, I stuck to Aubameyang's contract and selling Martinez. We'll move on to Aston Villa. It's staying alphabetically ordered so far, but I assure you it's not going to get... It's going to go haywire in a second. So, second, we have Aston Villa. Now, again, if you've listened to this podcast, you know how much I despise... Despise is a big word, but as a footballer, I despise Tyrone Mings. So, keeping Tyrone Mings, signing Tyrone Mings, and making him your club captain, that is the biggest mistake Aston Villa have made in the last few years. It cost Smith his job, it cost Stevie G his job, it cost Liverpool the title on the last day of the last year because Aston Villa were 2-0 up till Tyrone Mings made 2 mistakes. I cannot believe managers keep confidence in him. To me, he's one of the worst centre-backs in the league and he has an attitude problem. So I would say your faith, Aston Villa's faith in signing Mings and making him your club captain. Now, I know people are going to say, Mike, what about the signing of Coutinho, Ings, maybe Watkins hasn't done it, Buendia, fellas like this, Bailey, fellas like this. No, I think Mings has been your biggest mistake because of your loyalty towards him. And again, I watched Coutinho against Man City. He came on for the last 15 minutes of the City match and he was the best player on the pitch. So maybe it's Villa's fault for not getting the best out of him. I won't put him down as one of your worst decisions, but I will put Tyrone Mings down as the biggest mistake you've made in the last few years. So up next, Chelsea. Oh, well, it is in alphabetical order. No, Brentford should have came next. Anyway, so Chelsea are next, and look, there's loads of things I could say about Chelsea. The amount of signings they've made that have been flops, but the fact that it doesn't matter to Chelsea because of the amount of cash they have. But what I will say, the most annoying thing for Chelsea fans I think they've had to endure is the whole Lukaku situation. From the moment she signed him as a teenager, went out on loan, came back, went out on loan, came back, Everton signed him, you signed him back, no, Man United signed him, sorry. Then he went away to Inter Milan. Then ye signed him back again. Then he sold him again back to Inter, well, actually on loan to Inter Milan, and turns out she might actually even get him back again. I think the whole Lukaku thing has cost ye years of progression, because he always lulls you into a false sense of security that, oh, this might be our number 9. This might be the guy we were missing for. Batshuayi wasn't good enough. Morata wasn't good enough. And then you think Lukaku's the answer. I just think, with all your signings, I just think Lukaku cost you a lot of time and money. And money is nothing to Chelsea, but most importantly, he cost you an awful amount of time. You could have been putting time into a young fella from the academy or a new 100 million signing that you could have got. But no, you wasted a bit of time on Lukaku. So I will put that down as your biggest mistake in the last few years. He should have nipped that in the bud. When he went to Everton, you should have been done with him then, I feel. But what do I know? Also on the Chelsea list is this new ownership. The biggest mistake, and only time will tell, I could be completely wrong about this, but the new ownership at Chelsea could be the biggest mistake that they've ever made. None of their signings are proven. Like, not one of the signings. They've spent over a $500 million since these new owners have came. They've signed Mudryk, Enzo Fernandez. They've signed, they've signed, like, if I keep going, Aubameyang, Cucurella, Koulibaly, another centre-back, number 4. Lads, I could keep going. Okay, up next, Tottenham. I think their loyalty to Hugo Lloris. I'm not going to go on about it because anybody that has listened to this podcast knows how much, for the last 2 years, I've been going on about how much Hugo Lloris does not have it anymore and that he has chocolate wrists. So I'll just end it there. I think Tottenham's biggest mistake in the last few years is not having a good goalkeeper, and it's their fate in Hugo Lloris. There you go. Up next, Leicester. Now, this might be a weird one, and you might disagree with me on this, but I think the fact of not selling Youri Tielemans and not selling Wilfred Ndidi last year, I think you would have got 80 million apiece for both of those players last year. You would have definitely have got 60 to 90 million for Tielemans, and I think the same fee would have been got for Ndidi. Ndidi last year was one of the best CDMs in the world. Tielemans is one of the best centre mids in the world. I don't think you get half that fee for either of them now. I don't think you would. I personally think that their depreciation has gone down. They look less interested. They're more injury prone. I personally think that they've lost half the value that they would have got from had they sold those two players last season. And Leicester are a great team to recoup that money and keep it building. Sure, they've sold Mahrez, they've sold Schmeichel, they've sold Maguire, they've sold everybody. I was about to say Drinkwater, but whatever. They've sold all their players and they're well able to invest it back in. So I think not selling those for the top fee was one of your big mistakes. So up next, Liverpool, my beloved Liverpool. If you cast your eyes back to the time when we had Van Dijk injured and we were playing Henderson centre-back, Fabinho centre-back, Nat Phillips centre-back, we were top at Christmas. Liverpool were top of the league that Christmas and we didn't sign a centre-back. I tell a lie, we signed a fella from Preston North End called Ben Davis who never ever got a game. We should have signed Konate then. Now, maybe for some reason we couldn't, and maybe the fee was less if we got him in the summer. We should have paid double for Konate then, because then we would have won the title. We were 6 points clear at Christmas, and the wheels just fell off the wagon after that because we didn't buy a centre-back. And then we lost 6 games in a row, something stupid like that. Alisson Becker had to score a header against West Brom on the final few days in order for us to qualify for the Champions League. I really think Liverpool would have another trophy in their trophy cabinet had they signed Konate that Christmas. And I know that's a weird one, and many Liverpool fans would put this down as selling Mane, maybe our loyalty to Moreno and Millionaire and Lovren maybe set us back a couple of years. Maybe that's what's happening with Henderson and Milner now. Firmino, all those players, Salah maybe that's what's happening with them now. But in my opinion, the biggest mistake we've made in recent seasons is not signing a centre-back that would have made us win that league. Man United's biggest mistake in the past couple of years. Now, lads, I'm not slagging you, but there has been a load. Your last 10 years have been the worst in living memory for Man United. They just have. I could name Di Maria. I could name Schweinsteiger, Falcao, lads, I could keep going. I'm probably not even scratching the surface here, right? But the biggest waste of time and money from Man United in the last 10 years has been Paul Pogba. The amount of time pundits have talked about him, the amount of time fans have to talk about him, the amount of time, again, like other players, he lulls you into thinking he's absolutely unreal. He might score a cracker, and then for 6 months you're like, no, he's good. And then he's crap, and then he's injured, and then United are doing bad, but then he's coming back and he might score a goal or win a World Cup with France, and then you're thinking, oh my God, yeah, he might be great again. So I think, just like Chelsea with Lukaku, I think he sold him when he was a young fella. He bought him back for an extortionate fee and then sold him again for free. Not only the money, because money's not really a big deal for Man United, basically, United sell a lot of jerseys. I hate Man United, but I have no problem with them in the sense that they're a big club. I like the rivalry with Man United. I prefer it way more with Man United than I do with City or Chelsea, because Man United is a massive club, and the money they spend, they earn. Like, every second person you meet is a Man United fan with a Man United jersey. They have money. They sell tickets, But yeah, Paul Pogba, biggest mistake, waste of time. I could call it after the first season, I could have called it. But I think it was just such a bad moment for Man United fans that she kept a lot of faith in him. And as a Liverpool fan, I totally get it. We go through such bad stages as well that you hang your hat on a fella deep down isn't good enough. And I think that's what happened with Paul Pogba. So Manchester City, breaking financial fair play rules for 10 seasons and absolutely ruining football. Now, guys, I'm a Liverpool fan. You know that. Liverpool lost the league by less than 2 points on 3 occasions in the last 8 years. So 2013, 2014, the year Steven Gerrard slipped, that went down to the last day. 18, 19, that went down to the last day, and last season as well went down to the last day. Like, Liverpool should have 3 titles. I'm not bullshitting. I know a lot of Man United fans will say Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should have a title as well. You lost that league by 20 points, lads. Like, let's be honest. Like, you were a distant second. Liverpool were shit. Arsenal were shit. Spurs were shit. You were like the best of a bad bunch. I just think Liverpool were done out of 3 league titles, all because Manchester City cheated. It's cheating, guys. Like, I'm not sounding like a sorry Liverpool fan, but like, we were done out of it. And as a guy that loves sport and loves competition, I think they've ruined it a small bit. Thank God we won 1 title, and they cheated that season as well, Man City, and we did win a title. Thank God we won a title. Thank God we won a Champions League, because if we didn't in that era and Man City won all of that, I just think football wouldn't be the winner then. And like, they're already after costing Steven Gerrard a title. Like, we're all there, Slippy G. If Man City weren't cheating, there'd be no Slippy G. Stevie G would have a title in his back pocket, and we'd all have to shut up about it. So yeah, City, I know it's not your biggest mistake because you loved it and won a load of titles, but to everybody else in the Premier League, breaking financial fair play rules and ruining the whole thing for everybody else. I hate you. Okay, up next, Everton. Like, I had to absolutely, like, go through a lot of things. Like, I could have said 20 different things about this. I really could have. I think the fans will say that the worst thing was signing Rafa Benitez as manager. Look, I totally get it. If my heart was in a club and then Alex Ferguson became our manager, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, I don't care how good he is. He's Mr. Man United. So I totally get that from an Everton point of view. So maybe that's what was the worst thing. But what I said was Dele Alli. I just think with all the signings he made, maybe there was a bit of potential in all of them. But this one, I don't think he trusted that yourselves. I don't think any man in the world, like deep down, thought that Dele Alli was going to be a success for Everton. And didn't you have to pay 20 million for him? Like, I know you initially signed him on loan, but it wasn't the deal if he played over 10 games, which he did, that you had to pay 20 million. So, like, and pay his wages, man. And look at him now. He's out in Besiktas. He got subbed 2 weeks ago after 15 minutes. The man's a disaster. And I think we all seen that coming. Now, there's been way worse signings probably than Dele Alli, but that was the most stupid, in my opinion. It was never going to work out good. Newcastle haven't made that many mistakes in recent years, especially since their new ownership has taken place. But what I will say, a few years ago, when they signed Steve Bruce as the manager, I think Steve Bruce's stock in the last 10 years just goes like this. And even after Newcastle, he went to West Brom, And as you know, guys, we've a West Brom guy that often comes on the channel, Colin Brosnan, and he was not happy with the signing of Steve Bruce and just how little interest he had. And look, the fans aren't wrong all the time, so I just think that the signing of Steve Bruce was a disaster for Newcastle, but they haven't done much wrong after that. Up next, we have Brighton. Guys, there's not much Brighton have done wrong since they've come up to the Premier League a few years ago. Maybe some itty-bitty things that we can, needle it. Like, I don't think so. I personally think that the only thing that could have gone wrong was letting Potter go. No, they didn't even let him go. They had to sell him to Chelsea. He's their manager. But it's actually worked out for the better. They've improved, if anything, since Potter's left. And they're an ideal club, guys. Players like Lamptey, Lallana, Evan Ferguson, an Irish fella up front, always bringing youth in, always selling their best players and seem to deal with it and improve year on year. So, Brighton, you're one of those clubs. You've done nothing wrong in the past few seasons, as far as I can tell anyway. Up next, Southampton. Now, Southampton, I said last week, since they've come to the Premier League, they have sold over 600 million worth of players. Like, that's a lot of players. You can't get away with that for so long. You have to pay the price, and this year they're going to pay the price. They've sold Van Dijks, Manes, Schneiderlins, Kleins, Danny Ings, everybody. They've sold Wanyama, Romeo. They've sold absolutely everybody. But I'd say their biggest mistake in the last 2 years is signing Saluso. He's their centre-back, I believe, from Ghana or Senegal. I just remember him playing in the African Cup of Nations. No, sorry. But he's a terrible defender. I would say he's the worst defender in the league. I would go that far. Worse than Tyrone Mings, worse than whatever they have, any team. He's the worst centre-back in the league. Every time I say this, he goes on to do something even more miserable the following week. I don't know why you play him or even having him around the camp. He's a terrible player. Take notice next time you see him, if you ever see him. He's a horrible defender. So I think Southampton's worst mistake was signing that fella after they let go top-notch centre-backs, top-notch. Up next, Nottingham Forest. Again, Nottingham Forest are new. They let go all the players that got them into the Premier League last year and signed about 22 players this season, if not even more. Now, they are 6 points above the drop zone, so in their head, they've done everything right and everything's a success. So on the day of recording this, they have made very few mistakes. The only mistake I would say is Jesse Lingard. Paying that man 200 grand a week for a whole year is absolutely insane. And the return he got off him has been miserable. I think he's gotten one cup goal, I believe, all he had, and he did against it. He did a dance as if he's paid back. He's 200 grand a week. He's doing a dance against Leyton Orient. The man wrecks my head. I wouldn't have him around the club even for a £5 a week. Never mind 200 grand a week. But I get it. You're a low team. You're coming into the Premier League. You can't detract that much. I get it. You're going to make mistakes. So it's not a massive mistake, but I would say it's your biggest mistake in the past few seasons. That's an outrageous amount of money for a vlogger. That's what he is, a vlogger. Leeds. Again, Leeds' biggest problem, they have multiple problems, but their biggest problem is loyalty. Now, you'll find loyalty being a problem with a lot of these clubs. Maybe that's their biggest downfall. I'm sure Jurgen Klopp's biggest downfall is loyalty to players that aren't good enough. But I really think Leeds, they held on to Bielsa too long. They held on to Jesse March too long. And I think they do that with their players. I think their loyalty is getting them done. They might even get relegated this season. So I would say their biggest mistakes is the loyalty to players like Ayling, Cooper, Forshaw, Bamford. I know Bamford scored a good amount of goals in their first year up, but he's not the height. He's not going to keep you up every year by himself. It's only a matter of time before you get relegated and he's in the Championship again. Like, I'm telling you that now. Now, they have gone away and signed a new striker for 35 million. Fair play to him. But I would also say the signing of Dan James was a big flop. Paying over 20 million for Dan James was a huge mistake. So that signing and also their loyalty towards some of their players. Fulham. Fulham is very similar to Brighton in that in the last 2 years, I know they got relegated 2 years ago, but came straight back up. They had Scott Parker as a manager. They have Marco Silva as a manager now, who's doing amazing things. I love their players. I love Mitrovic. These are Mitrovic's boots. These are Mitrovic's boots, man. I love Mitrovic. I love the foxy fella centre mid, Harrison Reed. Love that guy. I love Decora Reed. I love Willian. Willian is back, man. Willian is just rolling back the years. They have a lot of players that I really, really like. Fulham. So yeah, and they've actually they're unreal. So I will withhold judgment because they're like 8 in the Premier League after being newly promoted. So again, on the time of recording, they've made no mistakes in the past year. I won't call their relegation 2 years ago a mistake. It's all getting to them where they are now. So no massive mistakes from Fulham. Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth, I could go with letting go Eddie Howe. I could say letting go of Wilson. I could say maybe, I don't know. There's lots of things I could say about Bournemouth. But in the past 5 years, the worst thing Bournemouth have done is sign Jordan Ibe from Liverpool for 25 million. Even when that happened, as a Liverpool fan, I was like, have they seen this guy play? Have they seen him play soccer? Because, like, I'm sure he's a nice dude. I'm sure when he was young, he had a load of talent and all that kind of stuff. But he's shocking. He's a shocking player. He's nowhere near a Premier League football. I go as far to say, he's not even a championship footballer. So getting caught with your pants down for, I won't say Solanke just yet, because Solanke puts in a few goals for you. But Jordan Ibe was a terrible, terrible decision. Awful. So that was your biggest mistake in the past few years. So we go to Wolves. A team that I absolutely love, and they haven't made that many mistakes, to be honest with you. They got very unlucky with the injury to Raul Jimenez, and they're keeping players like, they got rid of Cody and replaced him. They get rid of their keeper, Rui Patricio, replace him with Sa, who's even better, keeping Ruben Neves, Jaume. I love Podence, I love Neto. All these players I love if they could actually just not be injured, if they all could just be fit at the same time. I don't think Wolves have made that many mistakes. The most blatant one is their record signing, Fabio Silva. Now, I understand that Fabio Silva is only 20 years of age. They signed him when he was 17 for 35 million. And he's done nothing, guys. I think he might have scored 1 goal in 3 years. He's now on loan at PSV. Came on as a sub at the weekend and scored a goal in a 6-0 win. Look, he might prove me wrong. But right now, he's a huge flop. And if that's your record signing, like, Diego Costa isn't scoring goals. Raul Jimenez isn't scoring goals since his skull injury. Like, you can't blame a fella for fracturing his skull either. So I'm just saying, Fabio Silva has not picked up the pieces that Diego Costa and Raul Jimenez have left behind, and that is a huge mistake for Wolves. And he's Portuguese. They haven't made mistakes with Portuguese signing. Every Portuguese player they get is a gem. So that's probably the only one. I'm being harsh on Wolves here. And still, he's only 20. Might prove me wrong. Brentford. Now, Brentford. Ye have done nothing wrong in the past few seasons. Nothing. And I'm going to take this time to absolutely say the things you've done right. Number 1. Brentford are the only club in the Premier League to have kept their home jersey for 2 seasons. As a football fan, I am sick shit of having to pay €130. I don't even do it anymore. €130 for the pro jersey. That's what you gotta pay. €130. And they change it every season. And they change the 2 away jerseys as well. Every season, every club does it. I remember when I was a child, teams kept their jerseys for 2 to 3 seasons. It was brilliant because if you're a parent of multiple kids that support clubs and you need to buy them jerseys for Christmas, Jesus, you don't want by the time it comes to summertime for that jersey to be the old jersey. So Brentford, thank you. And I hope other clubs follow for keeping the same home jersey for 2 seasons straight. That is brilliant for your fans. It's unbelievable. Second thing, what ye have done, ye brought Christian Eriksen back to the Premier League and giving him a new lease of life. And I know he plays for Man United now, but I'm a football fan first. Thank you for bringing Christian Eriksen back into all of our lives. We absolutely love him. He's a baller. And you guys took a chance when not many other clubs were going to take one. So outstanding. The third thing I'm going to say about Brentford is their owner. Now, if you don't recognise how their owner, you should probably Google it. There's plenty of documentaries on it. But he's a gambler. He's a professional gambler, their owner. What happened was, about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Brentford were in debt and they were in League 2. And this man gave the club a loan. Now, the conditions of the loan were, if they didn't pay him back within 5 seasons, he would then own the club. So he gave him a loan of like $750,000, knowing that the fans were never going to pay him back, because that's what football fans do. They tell owners how to spend the money, and then when they own a club and try to run things, and when they get into debt, they borrow and never pay back. Do you know? So this guy ended up owning Brentford from this loan not being able to pay back. He's a gambler, guys. He used stats. I think his first club was Midtjylland in Denmark. And if you know about them, they're all stats. They're the Moneyball theory. Who got a long throw? What good guy is good for assists? They'll get the most unorthodox dudes to play a system, and it just works. And you can see it working this year for Brentford. I have nothing bad to say about you. You're class. You're a breath of fresh air, actually, to the Premier League, I must say. West Ham. The signing of Italian striker Scamacca. It's blatant that Antonio needs help. Even if Antonio is your main striker, he only plays 6 months of the season. His hamstrings are made of Weetabix, so he needed backup, hence the signing of Danny Ings in the wintertime. Scamacca, since the first day I watched him, has been the worst striker in the Premier League this season. Hands down, he looks out of his depth completely. They spent multiple millions on him. Scamacca, what a flop. And West Ham were at a time just missed out in the Champions League, got to the Europa League semi-final. Now's the time to sign a striker and drive it on. And they signed a striker and they've gone back. So I think that's the biggest mistake West Ham have made in the past couple of seasons. To be fair, since David Moyes has come in for the second time, they haven't done much wrong, West Ham. They have not done much wrong. Their signings have been brilliant. Their selling ons have been brilliant. The stadium feels better. There's not that many empty seats in the London Stadium. I really think it was going really positively. I think the signing of Scamacca has set you back 2 seasons, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Let me know, Hammers, if I'm wrong. Crystal Palace. Now, Crystal Palace, again, haven't done that much wrong. But what I will say, your loyalty towards finished players, like Nathaniel Klein, like Tompkins. I know Tompkins scored at the weekend, a header from a yard out, but the man's been done for 4 years. And Milivojevic, how is he still at the club? I really think the loyalty to players that are really gone the past 3 years are getting Crystal Palace a bit screwed. But also, their loyalty towards Zaha has got him to a point where it's helped them hugely. So there's goods and bads. I like Crystal Palace as a club. I really enjoy them. Maybe not holding on to Gallagher. Maybe not paying the extra 10 million. I know they put 25 million bid for Gallagher. Maybe going all out and putting 40 million on the table is what you should have done. Instead of playing Jeffrey Schlupp centre mid today, I think Conor Gallagher would have got you your money back within a season. Hence his jersey up there on the wall. Love the dude. So guys, that's all. Your team's biggest mistake in the past few seasons. Let me know if I'm wrong. Message the Cranky Pundit podcast on Instagram, or just leave a comment below the YouTube and I'll get back to you. Let me know if I was wrong or right. So thanks for listening